You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needom. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Don Ortiz and Dina Preston-Ortiz. They are members of the Dina Peterson Band. They also have a book out called 31 Cents to 43 Countries, Hardcore Tips to Increasing Profits. They at once, when they first started to work together, only had 31 cents between the two of them, and they turned it into a thriving business. So they share their book, they share their journey, the journey that actually took them to working with the government and being part of the Armed Forces Overseas Entertainment Performers. This is not the same thing as the USO, even though they follow the same tour. It's not exactly the USO, but they did get their name on a monument, which brings me to a little tidbit that you guys might want to pay attention to. During the interview, Don talks about getting their name on the USO monument, and you need to pay attention because at the end, and yes, there's a quiz this time, well, not really, but you have an opportunity to win their book, and you have to pay attention to the story because in that story is the answer. And if you know the right answer, you're entered into a drawing to win a copy of the Audible book, 31 Cents to 43 Countries. So pay attention when he starts talking about that, because one of the key factors is a name in there, and you'll be entered to win. So I hope you enjoy the show. It's a pretty fun time, and the positive energy and the leadership skills that they talk about are absolutely amazing. So enjoy the show. Hi, Dina and Don. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I am doing very well. So we're going to take a little trip back to your past because I know you guys do something different now. You guys, when I first reached out to you, I thought you guys were part of the USO, but apparently I was wrong. So explain about what you guys used to do.
Well, in 1992, we were picked up by the Pentagon Department of Defense for a program they called Armed Forces Entertainment, a professional overseas show. And we actually do all the same venues overseas for our men and women serving abroad. So we've been to the front lines of Afghanistan. We were in Desert Storm 1, Desert Storm 2. We've been in Bosnia during the Bosnia conflict. And we did that for about, 15 years, Don?
Yeah.
And while we're an arm of the Pentagon, and we actually do exactly the same tours of the USO as the USO performers do. The only difference between us, those that do these types of tours in the USO, is that we are not A-list stars. So we are
a celebrity.
Yeah, I like to call them blue collar musician tours because literally we are following them and doing exactly the same work, but we are not the stars. We are actually blue collar musicians that are just professional at what we do, and our job is to bring music from home to those serving abroad.
And I'm sure they appreciated that.
Best audiences in the world.
They really are. And what's great, they become your family.
Yeah.
And because we were out there so much, we would also see them stationed in other parts of the world at different times when we would go through. So it's really unique to have that relationship continue. And to this day, they still keep contact with us and even visit.
Nice.
And even though we left that work, that type of work, about 2005, 2006, I think our last tour
2008.
2008 was in
South Korea.
Yeah. We still work for the military. We still work for our local military here in Arizona or anywhere across our national, across the U.S. So we still are very much in touch with and still provide music to our military men and women.
And veterans.
And their families, and veteran organizations as well.
Nice.
And then we were really blessed to actually be engraved alongside Hollywood legends Lucille Ball, Mickey Rooney, Jane Russell, and Miller on a USO monument. And that came about through, I met one of the original Doublemint twins, Terry Frankel.
Really?
And she sat on a committee, and one of the other committees was Lucille Ball's son that sat on the committee. And they were putting together this monument. And because I had a direct connection with the USO, I helped them connect with that. And then they were able to use the USO brand on the monument.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's really nice to be honored in that way next to Hollywood legends and of course our 15 plus years of working with the military.
So you were the Dina Peterson band. Are you still do some of that occasionally?
It's actually Preston, so it's
Oh,
Dina
Preston, sorry.
And so, yeah, I actually hired Don to be in my road band in 1988, 89. And the Dina Preston band continues. And I've been on the road as a band already for almost about 10 years. I actually started as a street musician in San Francisco, busking in front of Ripley's Believe It or Not between college classes. And I moved down to Southern California, San Diego. My band won a regional contest, and we were picked up by an agent out of Minnesota, and we started touring. And back then in the 80s, you could tour. They had the big clubs, the big nightclubs.
You could be on tour for 2 years if you needed to.
Back then they had the big nightclubs, 500 people nightclubs that you could just go, every week you'd be in a new place. And so we toured for many years. I hired Don in 1989 to join my road band, and he's like, I want you to break up and come with me, and we're going to start something. But we always kept it as a Dina Preston band because we were already known on the circuit.
And then we became more of a corporate band for Fortune 500 companies and things like that. So doing the higher upper echelon types of events, and then that allow us to also meet other individuals through corporations. And here we are 32 years later, still performing as the Dina Preston band. In fact, in 43 countries, believe it or not, without a record deal or any management, just the two of us managing the whole project. In fact, that's why we had to write a book about it, because people wouldn't believe that, having a book like 31 cents to 43 countries. We literally started with 31 cents together.
We did.
And that's what I was gonna go there, and you've already went there. So 31 cents. So that it has to blow your mind to look back and go, we had 31 cents and look at the life we have created.
That's so true. That is absolutely so true. Yeah.
Because I mean,
we've been really blessed to have major events happen to us over the years, from really something as unique as being lost in Singapore
and Afghanistan
both, to having band members in landmines, landfields. So we have traveled the different road no musician has ever traveled, and we would be a very big time rarity to ever copycat because of what we've done and where we've been.
And what we've found is the actual struggles that we have faced, the struggles that we've actually faced bring new change and growth opportunities. So because we've always had our internal compass really firmly in place, and we've continued to support that through talent mastery, we're not afraid of the struggle, because we know that the struggle is going to take us to new avenues that we may not have thought of. And I think our professionalism, both on the road and the types of clients that we have, are much different than what most people think of as professional musicians. And that's all been a result of opportunities as a result of challenges, right? So we've never been afraid of the change. We've never been afraid of making changes.
And we've been trained by the best.
We have.
I mean, literally. It's from the Department of Defense, the U.S. State Department,
to Fortune 500 companies.
Fortune 500 companies.
Which is much different than being on the road and working in a nightclub.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the one thing I have to say, you've been fearless, and that little word, fear, holds so many people back from pursuing things they want to pursue.
Yeah, that we are not fearful, and we're not fearful. And again, I say this over and over again, is because we have our internal compass firmly in place. We follow our passion, and because we follow our passion, and because we continue to support it through education and talent mastery, right? We get really good at what we do. We don't look at challenges as being fearful. We don't look at as failure as something negative. We look at it as an opportunity to improve and find new avenues to develop different kinds of competitive advantages, or what we do better than the competition. And it's just worked out really well for us.
Especially in environments of dynamic change. I mean, we've been in constant change right now. So we've been able to pivot and shift literally during this whole time that the pandemic has happened. And a lot of people are like, how are you still able to make it out there and get your product to be out there? The band, the brand that you guys have been able to have, the book, our new album, everything that had happened over the pandemic, including the monument.
So literally when the pandemic hit, we lost 30 gigs in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And they weren't coming back anytime soon. And that's how we make our living. So we had to pivot very quickly. And Don said, okay, we're working on this book. Let's get it out. We got the book out sooner. We started doing podcasts to share our tips and tricks globally, not only here, but across the US. Now we're doing professional speaking and keynote speaking and workshops. And so we were able actually to continue to make a living by being able to pivot based on our book. And so again, the idea is to find new perspectives regardless of the challenge or risk, to capitalize on the unknown. So yeah, we never let fear get in our way. We just really aren't afraid. Why? What's the worst can happen?
And like I usually tell people, you have to get your ask in gear. If you don't ask, you don't know, you don't receive. You're that far from a yes or a no.
And no's okay. If we ask you and you say no, we're perfectly okay with that, because that allows us to move on. And no may mean no right now. Oftentimes people are in different buying subjects, budgeting issues. So no may be no now, but reach out 3 or 4 months later. You never know what's going to happen.
It's interesting that you brought failure up, because I had a conversation with somebody earlier today talking about the fact that we put so much weight on failure and so much weight on success, and that there should be some kind of happy medium, that failure doesn't take you down. But I mean, failure in our language is such a dirty word. It's perceived as, oh, well, you've hit rock bottom. You're just awful because you've failed. But as you said, my dad said the same thing. When I asked him in my 30s, I'm like, are you proud of me? And he's like, what does it matter? Well, what if I fail? You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. But it takes a lot. We don't look at life that way. We look at success or failure. Why isn't there a happy medium?
Yeah. There's no way that we can grow. If we constantly have success, if we're constantly, performing and doing A+ work, by the way, none of us do that because we're human and we make mistakes. How are we going to learn? I mean, we have to make mistakes in order to grow, in order to learn. Some of our biggest mistakes have actually been some of our biggest opportunities. And some of the things that we've had challenges is we don't even control. So when we got lost in Afghanistan, we didn't have control over that. We were actually sent into the front lines by accident. By somebody who was in charge of us. So think of it, we're leaders of civilian musicians that are going into a theater, an active theater, war zone, and nobody knows that we're coming. Can you imagine what that's like? We have no resources, we have no performance dates.
And it could be weeks or months before we even are able to leave there, because there's the flights, the way they come in, it's not like an international airport. In Afghanistan and Kabul or Bagram. It was a different situation. And here we ended up going through Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and in the cold winter.
So one of the ways that we have found to be effective when we're faced with failure, when we're faced with things that are going south pretty fast, is that we actually look at the whole and then we break it down into parts and we manage the parts. And when we're managing the parts, we see how it feeds into the whole so that we can take a more integrated approach. But dealing with challenges, dealing with things that might be hitting your business south is really much more manageable if you can look at the pieces within the overall picture, because then it's not so overwhelming, right? You just take it a little bit at a time. And when you start seeing successes in those areas, you'll start seeing the overall picture starting to improve and getting better. You can also see opportunities in those little areas. I mean, when we were done with Afghanistan, because we were able to maneuver through it, we continued our relationship and got, quite a bit more experience, not only with the DoD, who continue to hire us, but now we have a book that's doing really well, right?
Right.
And that's a result. Part of that is a result of some of the challenges. This whole book is about the challenges that we face.
And really, a lot of the success stories that have happened to us also is people that have been in the audience. That have taken us to other journeys and other places with them across the world. As you know, when people move to a new company or a new location, they take you with them.
If you do a good job and you give them an excellent product, but you never know who's in the audience. You never know who's watching.
No, that's the same thing with this. I never know who's watching. I don't know. And, the thing about with you being in the war zone, it's like the whole statement of crisis equals opportunity. You could sit here and go into a panic, which would be very easy, I'm sure, to do if you're lost there and it's an active war zone. I mean, I'm sure a little bit had to be in your mind, I didn't sign up for this, but you had to make the best of it. And if you live in panic, it's only going to make it worse.
Yeah, and I think for myself and for Don, we had other people that were under us. We had our musicians that were under us. So even from that perspective, I didn't think about how it was affecting me. I was more concerned. I didn't have time for that.
Right.
I had, my responsibility was first and foremost to my band members to make sure that they were safe. And secondly, to our clients who expected us to perform, even though the people that we were flying into didn't know we were coming. So we needed to make sure we had housing, resources for food. And when we couldn't find it, we made friends with other people. I remember the Jordanian minesweepers who cooked fresh food every evening on open pits, fresh meat. It was wonderful. Literally in exchange, Don pulled out his guitar. And we literally sang for our supper. In exchange, we got fresh food every night as a result of that.
Nice.
And nothing like fresh lemon chicken with tomatoes on an open fire.
Don hooked
I'm
up.
sure.
Yeah, it was awesome. And Don hooked up with the administration of the theater and was able to book dates not only in Afghanistan, but they actually ended up flying us to Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan as well. So, you know, we figured out a way to make it work.
And we had to also, we found an escort as well to get us through and help us maneuver through those dangerous areas.
But the whole idea, and we're still doing it today because COVID hit. In 2007, the Great Recession hit. Guess what happens when something like that happens? The first thing that goes is entertainment.
Right.
People don't have money to pay for entertainment and for catering and for special events, which is what we do. So you got to learn to pivot and change and make it the most out of challenging situations. And during that time, one of the things that we learned during the Great Recession is we really learned how to downsize and how to focus. Instead of having all these products and services out there, we decided we were going to downsize. We looked at what we did the best and what we made the most money at, which was our band and a few other services. And we took away everything else and we focused in on that. And when we got requests for those other services that we used to provide, we would send them to people in our databases that knew how to do that and could do it more effectively and efficiently than we could. And guess what? They sent their clients over to us. So we started creating sort of the symbiotic relationship.
Chain, yeah, exactly.
And that's good. It's a beneficial thing. I mean, a lot of people now will go into business and they'll create something and they have so many, dare I say, tentacles out that it's like jack of all trades, master of none. Yes. And if you can't do something well and something else is suffering, then is it really a quality thing? And are you making your reputation, you know, are you tarnishing your reputation at that point?
Exactly. And what we feel and what we know now is that we are actually a brand. You know, the band is more of a brand than a band. And people see that in us, that we've had longevity, they get quality, excellence. And it's so easy for them to work with us because we've been in every predicament you could ever imagine in any event situation, whether it's been presidential ambassadors or, you know, working at somebody's backyard private Christmas party. So the thing is that we've been able to provide a great service, and to us it's always about the service first because client experience matters.
Yeah.
And that's our biggest thing. Yeah, really is.
Well, in your business, I mean, client experience is going to get you word of mouth, which is going to get, you know, it's the whole shampoo commercial of the late 70s, early 80s. They tell two friends and so on and so on and
that's
so
right.
on. You know, and that's, dare I say, that's how the internet works nowadays.
It really does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's how Little Nash got his song out there in the country charts. It was all TikTok. Yeah. So he created a dance. It was picked up. It went viral. Somebody told somebody, and then it just exponentially, you know, multiplied. And there he was now, you know, a new country star. Who would have guessed in a million years? By the way, and Nashville had nothing to do with that. So,
no. Well, yeah. I've talked to some artists. I mean, you know, Justin Bieber's another example of YouTube, but I have talked to some musical artists and we've discussed radio. I have a background in radio, and it's like, is radio really the place to be anymore? I don't think so, because you can get hit, you know, somebody can hit you on TikTok or Spotify. And I mean, I've found artists that I would have never heard of because they popped up on Spotify after the songs I was listening to was over. And I've grown to love these people. Yeah.
We had a client last Saturday that told us that. Okay. After we got done playing, she goes, I got you guys on Spotify.
I got you on Spotify. She goes, that's why I wanted you. She pulled the thing. I'm like, wow, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because, you know, this is on Spotify. This is on Audible. And it's like, never in a million years when I start, you know, and I only started doing this not too long ago, but I never imagined that I would have such a reach on different platforms because I'm not a musical artist.
Yeah.
And we found that to be true, even our book. That's why we had to have an ebook and an audible, because there is so many different platforms that people like to listen to. And we even ask our clients that, what is the best way to communicate with you? Because there are so many ways to communicate today.
And different target audiences that need different types of communication vehicles. So,
I have a friend who actually listens to the podcast she actually speeds everybody up. She's like, I don't like to listen to people in their normal voices, so I like to speed it up just a little bit. And I'm like, I guess it would make it go quicker too.
Right.
Because we know the attention span for most people is really about 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most.
I know. And it's amazing how much that has changed, because I mean, before, you'd sit down and watch an hour-long show. We had, a 32 episode season or 50, we had longer television seasons. Everything has changed to be very micro.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and who sits through a commercial? Like,
oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, everybody streams TV. Nobody really watches TV anymore, like you were saying, like radio. Is radio the place to be? No. Is TV the place to be? No. You got to be in the streaming areas.
Yeah. Well, it depends on your target audience too.
That's true.
I had the cable company sent me, my internet company who also has cable, sent me a thing today. Get this for $44. Why do I want cable? I can watch it on my Roku. Why would I do that?
Right.
I don't need it. I can watch it the next day. I don't need it that day.
Yeah, no, and business models as a result of technology are changing right and left. That's another disruption that, I will share with your audience that, you need to think about and you need to take advantage of. Change is good. Disruption is good. And if you can figure out a disruption or a change that will give you a competitive advantage, certainly we've seen it in the hotel industry with Airbnb. We've certainly seen it in taxi industry with the advent of Uber and of Lyft. And so if you can come up with that disruption as a result of technology, wow, sky's the limit.
Well, I mean, even like Carvana, I've seen the commercials, the rare commercials you see on Hulu, you have Carvana where they'll bring the car to you and everything is handled. So you're not sitting at the dealership dealing with this guy who's going to not listen to what you're saying anyway.
Right. And goes into the guy's office in the back to basically look like he's haggling for you, and he's not really ever in your corner.
In fact, our son, I think that's all he uses now is Carvana, and he's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
So couldn't even think of him going into it. Could you think of Ray going into it?
No. I mean, when we used to go shopping when we were kids, we just used to walk in, get the stuff, and walk out.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But technology, like you said, is a good thing, because now, while it has killed some industries, it has opened the door for other industries. I mean, you're a published author, I'm a published author. Would we have had those shots necessarily if technology hadn't been open to us and we could self-publish, or we could, those things, even music, same thing. Your music can be heard by so many more people now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you need to take advantage of technology and the disruptions that it can cause in order to create your own competitive advantage for what you do. And you need to be okay with failure, as you've shared. And you need to look at it not as failure, but an opportunity to grow and to learn, right? And again, you're constantly developing, and that never stops. Just because we've been doing this for 32 years, we have challenges all the time. So that process never stops. It's always challenge, learn, grow, change a model, update, let it go for a while, right? And then hopefully you're being forward-looking, so that you don't just wait for things to happen to you.
Yeah, because let's face it, sometimes people get comfortable.
Yes.
And they get comfortable, and then all of a sudden they're blindsided by the change, like a pandemic.
Right. Or even minor, micro changes, like a client that you've had for 15 years. It might be a major client has decided to go in another direction and you never saw it. And all of a sudden you've got like 45% of your income now not going to be there anymore. Right. So you really need to be forward thinking as well, in terms of making sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's for your business.
Well, I've talked to clients in the past for one of my side gigs, and I'll have women that are like, my husband handles everything. My husband handles all the money and everything. And I'm like, but if something were to happen to him, what are you going to do? Oh, well, it'll be fine. He's young, he's healthy. Oh, okay. But what about if, God forbid, he gets in a car accident or something? I mean, it's great to be naive and great to be comfortable, as you were saying.
Exactly.
But the fact of the matter is, when those things are thrown at you, are you able to pull yourself up? I mean, we talked a little bit off camera about my husband passing. I was told a year before, or maybe not a year, but about 9 months before, that he was on borrowed time. And he had been sick for a long time. But that still did not prepare. I mean, and I knew about the money and everything, so that's not the issue.
Sure.
Even though I knew he was on borrowed time, when the actual event happened in front of my face, I was not prepared for it.
No,
And-
how can you be?
No.
You can't.
So, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know that you walk outside, you got to go to an appointment and you have a flat tire. It could be something as mundane as that, or it can be something as drastic as losing somebody.
Right.
Life throws curveballs at us, and you have to be willing, as you said, to pivot, to be able to deal with it and handle and move on.
Yes. And it's okay to have downtime. We all, if something happens to us that we're just, there are some challenges that are more severe than others, and it's okay to take downtime and to meditate and to kind of repair yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and to reevaluate and all that.
Yeah, you just don't want to stay there though. You want to be able at some point to say, okay, and I've done what I need to do now. I've given myself some private time. Now I need to pick myself up and I need to keep moving forward. I need to keep putting one foot in front of the other to see where this is going to go.
Because if you don't, you end up playing victim, and then you'll
And you
never
don't
get
want
out.
that. Yeah, you don't want that. And you cannot be successful and be a victim. They're not, the words don't work
No.
together.
No, not at all. Not at all. So what else do you do now? You're working as promoting yourself, but you're also helping other people, correct?
Well, late in my late 30s, Don and I actually started our corporation, our entertainment company, TEO Entertainment Group, in 1993, and we got a angel investor to give us a loan to start the business. And we hired a manager, and the manager took off with a significant amount of that loan. And when that happened, I swore that was never going to happen to us again. So I went back to school and got my MBA. When I finished my MBA, and my goal was to come home and help us with the business. My brother was already teaching at the collegiate level, and he said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to the chair of the business department, and you could start teaching part-time and help pay back your school loans." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all in." Well, it turned out I love teaching, and so I ended up becoming a professor, a full-time professor late in my career. And in academia, specifically at the collegiate level, in order to move up, you need to get your doctorate. So I ended up getting my doctorate in business. And so I've been teaching at the collegiate level now almost for 22 years, believe it or not. So I've been teaching business for over 22 years, in addition to helping Don run the company and of course performing. And so in addition to our music, working for corporations and government entities, we also have a keynote speaking business. And so with our keynote speaking business in our book, we go out and we share information, tips and tricks, and actual workshops on how to do things like take advantage of change, right? How to capitalize on the unknown. We teach sales, how to do sales and marketing. We teach management, how to make the most out of your passion, so that you can be successful at what you do. So that's really where we're at right now.
And it's really unique because those programs really came from while we were working with the U.S. State Department. We had an individual we actually met in Azerbaijan, and he just loved our work ethic and our professionalism and the fact that we were willing to go way over beyond. And when he got his next post, we got an email from Budapest, and it said, "Hey, would you guys want to come and rock Budapest?" And who would have thought that kind of email is going to be, again, somebody who was in the audience.
So we not only went and played music, but we also went and taught entrepreneurship under President Obama's Statecraft Initiative. And so we teach how to start and run small businesses, how to take advantage of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is a little bit different than running an actual small business. So we talk about that and the differences and how to take advantage of both. And so we're hoping we're going to get an opportunity to do that again now that the world is opening. We're hoping to be able to go back to work and do that as well. So we speak, do keynotes during the day, and then at night we perform to spread and promote American culture all over the world. So through music.
Yeah, and look at it this way. It's a great package because conventions and meetings are usually going to have a speaker, and they usually have entertainment that evening. How many have ever been the speaker and the entertainment for the evening? You've already got a closeness that have a relationship with the audience already. And when they see you at night, it's even more magical, as you can imagine, because you're sharing them what, your business sense with them during the day and helping them with workshops. And then you're providing the fun at the end of the evening too.
And I think I shared with you that my dissertation was on transformational virtual leadership, because we've been working in virtual environments since the 90s, literally when the first computer came out. And so we work a lot, and then the pandemic hit, and of course everybody wants to know about how to lead in virtual environments. So we have both the professional background and a pretty strong theoretical background also on virtual leadership. So we talk about that. We talk about following your internal compass, how to find excellence, but not perfection, because none of us are perfect, but you do want to find the excellence, right? And how to bring that out. We talk, of course, and we've been doing this all for the last couple of minutes with you, is solutions in difficult situations. So how do you come up with those solutions? Because there are specific ways and approaches that you can do this. So our goal with our workshops is for people to take out things that they can actually use, real learning with real specific applications.
In fact, we even do that in our book. Each chapter has takeaways, and those takeaways are from the stories that we tell prior, and why we tell those stories, to have those takeaways that you can utilize in your business mindset, startup right now.
And I just taught a college class right before the podcast here. One of the things we were talking about is communication, because we have such a varied amount of generational variation right now in the workforce. So baby boomers are still there. We have Generation X, we have millennials. And let me tell you, especially millennials and baby boomers speak a completely different language using completely different tools. But here's a challenge. Millennials are now buyers in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so, well, Don and I are used to picking up the phone, creating relationships, in that way, in kind of the more traditional sense. That's not how millennials work. And if they're the buyers, yes,
yeah.
If they're the buyers, you have to respect their approach, and you've got to learn how to communicate, because if you don't, they won't respond. They'll ghost you. And so, those are things that we teach as well.
Yeah, we even talk about it in our book.
You know,
that's the whole thing.
The thing is, and you were talking about ghosting. I mean, that's something that would never have happened before.
Never.
Maybe on a date, if a date didn't go well then you wouldn't hear from the person. But now it's like one and done. It's not even a date; it's a phone call. And if they don't, you're lucky if you can talk to them on the phone.
You're right, because
it doesn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't happen. No. Based on generational preferences. Yeah, you're lucky and most of the time if it's a millennial or a demographic maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, your chance of you getting on the phone is really slim. So how do you sell your product or service to somebody who's not going to pick up the phone? How do you do that? So we talk about that as well.
Yeah, and get them to contract.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the bigger part of it, to connect the business and actually get it done.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of, there's a lot of downtime. The funny thing is, you and I both know that talking on the phone there's no misconstruing of tone or interpretation of what's being said. There's no lag time. You can actually have a conversation like we're doing right now, that back and forth. Texting, since the days of AOL, somebody can message you and it's like, you can take it the complete wrong way.
Oh, absolutely. I highly agree with you, especially since we work with different cultures around the world. Mm-hmm. So we really are very careful about how we select wording.
But even now and then we make mistakes. We think we're doing the right thing, and they may misinterpret the tone. And, as Americans, we tend to be assertive. We tend to be very positive and kind of peppy and happy and bursting with love. That doesn't work for all cultures.
Yeah, we had somebody connect us from Mexico and said, hey, we have 10 shows that we would love to have you come down here and do, and blah, blah, blah. And we sent them all this information. And next thing you know, it's like, they're talking back with us. And then we're like, well, maybe we should look in to see if these guys are legit, if it looks like it could go forward. And us testing that water it closed that communication instantly.
We actually checked with the Mexican consulate here because Arizona's on the border of Mexico. So we
Yeah.
checked with the Mexican consulate here. And while that works for us as Americans, because we want to make sure that the business is good, we
Right.
don't want to be sending people overseas or even across the border without, firm information. From their point of view, we were not trusting them. We were breaking the trust bond. So what we really should have done is gotten in our car, driven across the border, had lunch with them or a meeting, because Phoenix is only about maybe 3 hours from the border. And we could have met with them in Mexico without an issue. But, for convenience sake, we decided to do a checkup with the Mexican consulate. And that just didn't go well with them. And I can see why from their perspective, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good live and learn
You're
lesson.
not building the trust bond and
Yeah.
the relationship.
So do you find yourself, I mean, you've been in the music industry a long time and in a band. Was there ever an avenue of perfectionism for yourself that you were just too hard on yourself where you were like, do I want to keep doing this when it came
Never.
to music?
Never.
Okay.
In fact, when we were playing this Saturday, we were all looking at each other and it's so happy. The best thing I ever hear is when the drummer clicks those sticks.
Yeah.
Henry's been with us for 22 years and our bass player like 29 years. And nothing like having that camaraderie and having that family sense together. And we never use a set list. So we're always reading the event in real time.
It's a passion. And when you're passionate about what you do, and passion usually comes from talent. So because we're passionate about what we do, don't share this with anybody, but we play music for free. We charge for the setup and the teardown.
There you go.
The music is free. It's just like writing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's just like being a radio personality.
Yeah.
Whether somebody pays you or not, you're going to do it because you have to do it.
And you're getting that 30-year experience.
But the real kicker for us though is to capitalize on that talent. It's not enough just to have the talent. You have to continue to grow that talent, because if you do, that's where the excellence comes in, right? You're always perfecting it. You're always making it better.
And for us, it's never about us. It's really about the client and providing that great experience.
We're always learning. We're always going to school, whether I'm getting information from a course on YouTube, or I'm actually going. Last spring, I went to MIT for a data analytics course because I wanted to understand how data analytics would affect some of the social media marketing that we're doing for the band. So again, could I have done that 10 years ago? No. Do I need to do it now? Absolutely. You can't have a band, a live entertainment or music without understanding data analytics and understanding it well, because you can't make your platforms as effective without that understanding. If that makes sense.
So we can see what the Dina Preston band site and our DEO sites are actually doing, and what pages are doing well, and
why. And then and they even go further to talk about predictive analytics, where you can actually build algorithms and use statistical models that help you predict what your consumer's behavior is going to be. How awesome is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But the algorithm is the notorious thing that will hammer you on TikTok or Instagram because I don't know if I did something or what, but on TikTok I cannot get more than 150 views. I don't know what I did, but whatever. It's something that
you learn it, you have to relearn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll change the algorithm.
Yeah, well, it's always like I always feel like I'm a hamster on a wheel doing this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I got everything. No, you don't.
No.
Sorry. So
Well, change everything.
I have a question. So how many people, I know being in the podcast business, and I have people approach me all the time about being on the podcast, and a lot of their big talk is, I'm an entrepreneur. Do you think that word is overused nowadays?
I don't know. I think sometimes they confuse it with a business owner. So there really is a difference between being an entrepreneur and a business owner. So while a business owner, I consider us in some ways business owners, because we actually took a model of running and owning an entertainment company, and we copied it and then made it better based on what we thought the weaknesses in the other model were. An entrepreneur really is, in my opinion, someone who comes up with something completely new and innovative and is willing to take a risk to make that idea successful. And so I would differentiate between the two. Look at how cute she is.
Well, if I didn't do that, she would end up walking over the keyboard. And yes, my audio listeners are going, "What's going on?" There's a cat. It's Chloe.
It just went viral.
It's your mascot.
Yes, the Chloe cat, Better 2 mascot.
Yes, I love
Absolutely.
it. We're big cat people.
I know. I mean, we talked about that too. Cats are wonderful. I can't say I'm a cat person because I've had both, and I still have both, and they get along. It's Tom and Jerry sometimes, and other times they sleep right next to each other. So, we
had both too at one point.
We travel too much.
But we traveled. It was
Not
too
fair.
hard for the animals and the anxiety
Your
it causes
dog,
them.
you need to be with your dog.
And cats, when you go away and you come back, they will not have anything to deal with you for like at least 2 hours. And then maybe they'll warm up.
Right.
Or they don't care that you're gone. As long as you got someone in coming in, petting them, feeding them.
True. We used to have a Maine Coon, and when we got the Cavalier, she was a puppy, and the Cavalier would bite on the Maine Coon's ears and everything. And as she got bigger, she started humping him for dominance. And I'm like, really? So yeah, she misses him because that was her dominant buddy. And the cat didn't care. The thing is, the cat did not care in the least. He was the most laid back.
Chloe, our cat used to walk around all the time. So we used to have to shut the door for podcasts and shows and things, or recording. They start meowing when you're recording in a show or something, and
that's kind of why it's like I could close the door and then the dog and the cat are out of the room, and that's fine. But then there we go. Sorry, guys. But then they're gonna bark and meow, and then I'm gonna have, it's gonna create another whole noise distraction. So I figure, some people understand having a cat
for editing.
Exactly. And this time, most likely, I will edit most of that out, but most of the time, Chloe just will come back and forth, and I let her do it. So is there going to be a TED Talk?
We've talked about it. We're thinking about it. We're so busy right now that I don't know if you've done TED Talks before, but there's actually a pretty arduous process. You have to apply, and you have to come up with the talk. And so I think just because of time limitations right now, it's not first and foremost on our list. I think with time, actually, we would like to do a TED Talk, but it needs to be timed right. I just don't really have the time to be submitting to different TED Talks. I don't have it. I literally was teaching up until we did this podcast, which means I was teaching. I had to come home. Don was doing contracts all day.
I was finishing doing contracts just beforehand.
As much as we'd love to do one, we just need the time to actually submit and get it processed.
And plus, we like to be perfectionists in that area, So for us, we always make sure things are great, and that's just our forte.
There's a certain time when you become a perfectionist, whether you want to or not. It just sort of happens.
Exactly.
So for your music company, do you have other artists, or are you just your sole artist?
I mean, we did for years. And our goal was we did live music. So Don booked other entertainment for years and years and years. And then when the Great Recession happened and everything shrunk, we just went, we got to look at what we're really making money. And we did a really hard financial look at everything. And what we found is that our band was pulling in the most, I would say probably 80% of our income. So we just went,
why focus on the others?
So we decided to drop everything else. And we just now, if we get requests for that, we just will refer them out. And then they refer back to us as well.
Right.
So,
and you have a record out, you said?
Yeah. Field of Blue. Yeah. It's available on your favorite music platforms. Field of Blue by the Dina Preston Band. And in fact, our last cut that we did, we actually wrote with platinum singer-songwriter Reggie Vincent, who wrote $1 Billion Babies with Alice Cooper.
Nice.
And so we were really happy to do that. And then on top of that, we have our music videos on YouTube, the Dina Preston Band. And then, of course, our Dina Preston Band website. And then you can also find us on deospeaks.com for our speaking. And as you know, we're on LinkedIn. We have over 9,000 followers. So you're welcome to connect with us. And if you see somebody that's in our contacts that you'd like to meet or be introduced to, were there.
Yeah, we actually wrote the album in conjunction with the book. So we have the ebook and Audible as well. And the Audible is awesome because we have a wonderful voice actress, but the music is threaded through the Audible as well.
Yeah, because we actually wrote our songs as part of the tours that we would go on, like Budapest, we have I Can't Wait. And then Fiji, we have Get Back to You. So it's really great to.
And in fact, we talked about giving an Audible out to one of your audience members. So
Yes.
We're going to have you run something, whatever you want. And we will, whoever the winner is, we'll send them an Audible book. If you just send us an email address, we'll send them the Audible book.
Okay, I will do that. I will definitely put that up. We have never done a contest before, so this will be something new.
Yeah, it'll be
But,
fun.
Yeah.
but we
And
will
it
do.
is an independent authors network. It was an award winner last year for best nonfiction book in sales, economics, and in business. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. So where do you see your business growing?
I think we're going to be continuing. We're hoping to get back out with the State Department and go back out and promote cultural entrepreneurship and live performances. We're going to continue to work with we're a live performance band. That's what we do, and that's what we do well.
We're still doing contracts regularly for that as well. And then the speaking events and then podcasts, you know, out to your audience. And if there's anybody out there that's listening, you know, and you can listen to us as well in your podcast. We'd love to hear back your feedback too. And whether it's our book or the Audible or whatever platform or our music, we'd love to hear your feedback.
So it's definitely growing the business with the addition of the keynote speaking and providing workshops, entrepreneurial workshops, small business workshops.
And as you know, you got to give to receive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're about, really giving back and helping others, you know, create that road to success, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Dina, you know, you're teaching. So how do you manage to fit all of this in?
I have done that for 22 years. Believe it or not, I was teaching in Afghanistan when we were lodged. I was teaching online in Afghanistan because I've been teaching online since 1998. I was with the first university that offered online classes. So I actually helped develop them. And so for me, it's just that I've always when you're a woman and you have a family and you're working, you just learn to multitask pretty quickly.
And in fact, she was even working on her doctorate degree while we were on the road in places like Saudi Arabia and Oman. And, you know, it's driving that wheel forward.
You have to be really organized. I'm on a schedule. I'm up at 5 every morning. You know, I usually get work done before I go to work. Then I do my gig working. And then I'll call Don at lunch if there's anything I got to do for the business. And then I'll come home. And then if we got a gig, I'll get dressed and head out to the gig. And then I get up and do it again. But it's my passion and I love what I do. So it's not work. I mean, It is. Don't get me wrong. But I love what I do. I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
It's really
just like you. I'm sure you love what you do.
I do. And I mean, there are days where it's like, oh, do I want to do this? And it's like, yeah, I do want to do this because it's like, even though you're tired, you still find the energy to do it because it's your passion. And I had a conversation with somebody earlier, the same person, about passion. And it was like, if you're not following your passion, then you're in a soul-sucking job and then life is not good. And I was talking to one of my friends tonight and her husband he works in manufacturing and they're down to 3 people and they're not hiring anybody. And he is stressed out beyond belief. Yeah. It's like, and you know what, and one of his coworkers has to take his blood pressure now because they're worried about his blood pressure.
Wow.
So,
yeah, you know, it's all those kind of things that you're talking about. We've had friends where because of COVID, they're not used to being in the same environment close all the time. You know, he's off at work or she's off at work and then they visit at night and have dinner and then watch TV and go to bed. Yeah. You know, and through this whole time, it's changed that environment. The home environment has drastically changed for a lot of people.
You better like who you're with.
Oh, exactly. I mean, my husband and, you know, when John was alive, we spent a lot of time together because he was ill and we spent, I wouldn't say 24/7, but at some point we did spend 24/7 together. And then he had dialysis. And even during COVID, he still had dialysis. So there was that break, but you have to love that person and you have to respect that person and understand, well, I'm going to go in my office now and you can watch TV and
Now we all need that. We all need
Exactly,
alone
that
time.
space.
But
right.
I
No
mean,
doubt
yeah,
about that.
that's the thing. You need your space. You need to navigate that. And it's just like I've talked to people before when if he would, because he was legally blind and he would be in the kitchen cooking, and then people are like, why is he doing this? Because it was something he was passionate about. He was passionate about cooking. I'm not taking that away from him. And he would go, I'd be in the other room and I'd hear him say MF or something. And it'd be like, I go in there, are you okay? Is your name MF? So, at 20, I would have been right back at him, but no, I'll step away, come back in about a half hour and say, everything okay? Yeah, I'm sorry, that wasn't about me. So you have to learn, especially during COVID, you have to learn to navigate that this isn't always about you. It's managing that expectation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of couples don't do that. I don't think they look at the expectation of what do I expect from my partner? Well, they're human too. They're not perfect. Don't put them on a pedestal. They're going to have their bad moments.
Yeah, we all do. We all do.
I had my friends ask me, they're like, you guys tour together, you work together, you do all this stuff together all the time. How do you manage all that?
He knows everything about me. There's the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And he loves me.
Well, exactly. When you love somebody, you're willing to navigate and know them and know how they work and how they function and what you need to do to support them.
Plus, we're still willing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big key. We're not stuck in a situation where it's the same thing all the time. We're constantly evolving.
As people, as humans. I mean, who I was when I met him at 27, I'm going to be 60 this year. It's not the same. So it's, I'm hopefully I'm a more developed person. So.
Well, and that's the thing, we don't give ourselves that permission to evolve. We want to look at somebody that we knew when they were 20 and look at them still as a 20-year-old, kind of like your parents. Your parents looked at you and they would always see you as their little girl or little boy. They never, I remember I moved back home after my divorce, and this was the first time I was living with my dad since I was 9 because my parents split. And my dad saw me at times as the 9-year-old girl, the way he talked to me, the way he treated me. And I'm just like, I'm 27 years old. This is not, but it was his house. So you better make sure you call and tell me where you're at and da, 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 da. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, we evolve.
We haven't been guilty of that, I'm sure. Our son's 35, 36, going to be 36.
My dad's 90 and he still is sort of like that with me.
Yeah, he still calls him his boy. I'm like, he knows you're
That's
60.
my boy.
Like, he does know you're in your 60s, right? His dad's 90, so we cut him some slack for that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing, certain people are going to see you that way, but in general, especially your partner, your spouse, you have to see that person as evolving, as they're changing, whether it's good or bad. You try to navigate through life with them.
And you want to encourage it. That's a bigger part of it. That growth together is encouraging for both people.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, we look at, since you're in the entertainment industry, look at Madonna and Miley Cyrus. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, and even Lady Gaga, these are women that people are like, oh my gosh, look at them. They've done this. All they've done is evolve.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is shtick to grab that attention.
Right.
But they're evolving and they're changing.
Which is a great lesson for all business owners, wouldn't you say? And people and humans, right? We need to continue to evolve.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We hope your listeners will listen to that, and anybody watching out there, it's important.
Yeah,
it is. It's very important. And I think that's a lesson that we all could learn, and that instead of getting so stuck in the mud and not being more open-minded.
Yes.
More open-minded.
You can't get any more than 31 cents to 43 countries. I mean, that's quite an evolving situation that I know everybody will enjoy it.
Yeah. And
for some music too.
I'm going to say this: when I moved up here, I had $50 to my name, and that was it. My ex-husband.
You were rich compared to us.
You were rich.
Yeah, I know. I was rolling it,
and I had a room,
and I had a place to live too. My friend and her mom took me in, so I had a place to live. But I understand that struggle of not having anything and trying to build a life.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
I commend you guys for doing that.
Well, we commend you. It's been awfully fun talking with you.
Absolutely.
It's been
so much success to you.
Is there anything you need to add?
No, I think we're good. I think Don shared our platforms and our email addresses. We appreciate you and your listeners. Thank you so much for having us on today. We love your podcast. We've enjoyed it very much. So thank you for your service to the community, and really appreciate your listeners as well. Thank you for taking time with us today. You didn't have to, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you. Don and Dina are true leaders, as was shown when they discussed being put into a war zone. I mean, how many of us could handle being in a war zone and not freaking out and not worrying about the people that are underneath us and making sure that they're okay? How many of us could say that, well, I put the other people first. I wasn't in a panic. So it takes true leadership skill to be able to do that. And I would say that all the amazing things that Dina has done, and Don as well, but Dina, all the things that she does and the routine she follows, she puts herself on a level of, I have to continue to grow. I have to continue to do this. And Don's the same way. And you can tell by looking at them that they are a team, they are a unit, and that they are very loving toward each other and very focused, and that this is a true partnership. So when we look at life and our partners, we need to see them for who they are. I mean, we talked about that, and not get caught up in perfectionism. So when we look at giving the book away, because I know some of you guys are like, come on. I want to know how to win the book, because we've never done a contest before. This is the first time. So this first time, for an Audible copy of 31 Cents to 43 Countries, Hardcore Tips for Increasing Profits. I'm not going to make it easy, because, this is the first time, and the first time is always the hardest time, because you got to get over the hump. So I could say, give me the name of the record, which is Feel the Blue, but that's easily searched. I could say, give me the names on the USO monument that are with them. But once again, that's easily searched. So if you listen to the podcast, there is one thing that he said about the monument. He talked about two people helping that were on the board to help get their name on the USO monument. The one was Lucille Ball's son. That's not the name I'm looking for. I'm looking for the first person he mentions. Now, give me that answer. Get it to me by November 17th at 12 p.m. That is when this contest closed. No further entries will be accepted. The email has to be marked by midnight on November 17th, no later. I'm leaving it open a little bit longer because it is a podcast and people listen to it at different times. Sometimes they can't listen to it right away. So that's why it's staying open till November 17th. Once all the entries are there, I will go to Rafflecopter and I will have the computer pick the winner. I will share it on social media, and the winner will be notified via email, and I will send the link to Don and Dina with their email address. Now, how do you enter? Well, you email me the correct answer, your correct answer. Spelling is not going to necessarily be counted, but you email me your correct answer of part of this duo that he mentioned to Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com, and put in the subject line contest. That way I know it's for the contest. And once again, that's Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com, subject line contest with the correct answer. Now, I wish you guys luck. And, like I said, it was a fun podcast, and it's kind of fun that they're letting me do this. So I hope you guys enjoy the book, whoever wins it. And, can you imagine? I'm just going to stop right here for a sec. Can you imagine, though, having only 31 cents to your name and starting on a grand adventure? It's kind of crazy, isn't it? On that note, thank you for your support, as always, on the podcast. I really, really do appreciate it. And, you know where to find me, all the socials. The links are on the better2podcast.com site. And we do have a Patreon. So I thank you for all of your support and your time. And I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, whichever you choose. And I'll catch you next time. Bye. You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needom.